ahí vámonos.
So, welcome, friends. My name is Araceli Esparza. I am the author of Healing from Racial Discrimination, Ahora Qué, Now What? And to kick off my book, I'm interviewing all of the three artists that I worked with for this book. Cover art is Pola Lopez from Texas is joining us today, and
Oh,
she
I'm from New Mexico, Nuevo Mexico. Yes.
Oh, Pola, perdón. I've been
Okay,
calling you
that's
Tejana this
okay.
whole time.
And it is a part of the United States, in case a lot of people don't know. And it was part of Mexico before the United States was.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
Our
perdón,
history
Pola.
is very convoluted, and a lot of people don't.
Right, the South. It's so big. So, friends, so that you can see, this is the cover art that Pola has allowed me to utilize of her hummingbird. What is the title of this of your art here that we're looking at?
The title of that piece is Colibrí, which is Spanish for hummingbird, flowery speech. And the flowery speech is represented by the flowers that it's suckling at. And it's a glyph, it's an Aztec glyph. It's not complete because it usually has a scroll. It's attached to the scroll, but the scroll is kind of off page. But that's because I wanted to focus mostly on the hummingbird and the flowers.
The flowerly speech. So it's like
Yeah,
the hummingbird.
flowery speech. Flowerly. It's a hard word for me to say.
Yeah, same here. Flowerly speech. The
Flowery.
flowerly speech. Oh, wow. Because tell us about the story behind the colibri and the flowerly speech.
Okay. Well, this painting focuses on the power of um, because the colibri is a warrior symbol, right, to the Aztec people. Which Huitzilopochtli are the souls of the fallen warriors. So
Mhm.
I'm the warriors of it focus on is on the power of the palabra warriors, on the poets, on the writers, right? So I'm making this warrior into a palabra warrior. And the flowery speech is about how you use words and poetry in a beautiful way to convey a transcendental message or an important philosophical message or the beauty of life, whatever. Using it in a right way to create um, living correctly in harmony out of chaos, because it's how we survive the chaos. Because the glyph is a scroll, and it's
Right.
how the word moves like a scroll through the darkness, right? And the scroll is a symbol for the divine feminine energy. So it's all about creativity using words, which are very powerful.
Absolutely. And I hope that my book is powerful for those of us who are suffering from racial discrimination and wanting to find healing after that. Any kind of discrimination that you might have found in the workplace, there are definitely tools in there. And I was just speaking to somebody yesterday. I'm like, I've utilized a lot of those tools. And the Calibri in this, for me and for Paula, I when I saw it, like I was drawn to it. So there were top three friends. There were like, oh, it was a wrestling, right? There was some wrestling going on there. There were like definitely three images, and when I came across your art, it just like popped up on Facebook, and I'm like, I'm so in love with this artist and all of her work, and knowing that you were together, knowing like too that you really cared about the art that you were doing for our community, that you also do like murals, you work with various nonprofit organizations to beautify the cities of the South. I'm sure you've done work in Texas. I'm pretty sure that's kind of why I connected you to Texas. But you're in New Mexico. This is where your home is. Um, so tell us a little bit about your background as an artist and like now that you've spoken to us about this particular art piece, tell us a little bit about about you. I want to know. We want the world to know about you.
Oh, okay. Um, well, I was born in Las Vegas, New Mexico, and at a very young age, I discovered that I could hear color.
Mm,
I have this thing called synesthesia, and so color was very important to me since I was very young.
okay.
And So I could hear sound when I see color, and when I hear sound, see color, I hear sound.
Interesting.
So I was always amazed by color. So I'm a colorist in my paintings, and everything I do, color is number one important to me, primary. Um, but so I went through all through school, and it was we had no art programs, so I was just doing my own thing. But then, and a senior in high school, these Chicano painters came to my school with the brown berets. It was in the 70s. This was 1972. That's how old I am. I was like,
Ah, that is how beautifully elder you are.
yeah,
Yes,
I'm
yeah,
old,
gracias.
but that was over 50 years ago. And they took over, the Brown Berets took over our school. It was the height of the Chicano movement, the movimiento. And the muralists came and started painting murals inside the courtyard of our school. Now, I had been like kind of not going to school and doing bad things and ditching at the
Yeah, yeah,
river.
yeah, yeah. We all, yeah.
Once I heard, hey, they're doing murals, and they actually told us, don't come to school. We're closing the school down. We're invaded by terrorists and all this
Oh,
bullshit. So I directly went to see what was going on. Because being a rebel, I'm like, oh, I got to see this.
yeah,
What
yeah, yeah.
painting, and it's art, right? Because I was hungry for art. But they um, they were painting these beautiful murals of the Chicano movement, and they had imagery I had never seen before, like
Mm.
pyramids and farm workers and Aztec dancers, danzantes, all this stuff that I hadn't been exposed to in a small town in northern New Mexico. We thought we were Hispanos because we've been misled as far as our identity, who we were, right?
Interesting.
And I was just blown away by the power of muralism to tell a story and to affect you and to make you feel stuff. And I walked away that day saying, this is what I want to do. That's what I'm
Oh
going to do.
my
I'm going to be
God.
a muralist. I'm going to be an artist because art was already in me, but because I love color, but I hadn't had any formal training. So I decided that day to commit to art and being an artist, and that's what I did. I tried to go to the university, Highlands University in Las Vegas, but they wouldn't let me paint right away and everything. I wanted to do it all right away, and they wouldn't let me. They said, no, you have to take all these other courses. So
Awesome.
I didn't go to university. I just decided to make my own way in the world as an artist. And that's what I did. And I think when you commit to your path with heart, that spirit takes care of you. And I've always believed that, and spirit always brings me opportunities. And I never chase anything, it just comes to me because I believe that really deeply in my heart that
Oh, that is
when
so
you do what you're born to do, that you spirit will guide you and protect you. And it doesn't mean it's always easy. It's
no.
hard. It's not, you got to let everything run off of you. And there's a lot of challenges.
There's a lot of doubt. Absolutely. I know I had doubts, finishing this book, writing this book, even every day. Like, I'm like, is it going to happen? Are we never going to play, and it's like edits and all this and that and the resistance. But there's like, there's just in me like these doubts. But I'm like, when I talk to you and I talk to the other folks that are helping me do this, I feel so encouraged, and I'm like, it gets me emotional even just thinking about I mean, hearing your story about like how you became an artist. And I think had those people never came to your high school that day, I would have never had a covered art like this. Like it would have never happened. Like I would have never encountered your art. And there's other images. Unfortunately, folks, I don't have that. Please go to her website though. I will definitely put that in our comments, how to get to her website. There's another image that I had wanted, where is this woman like breaking these chains, and it's like she's part of a tree, and man, it was intense. But my publishers were like, you might scare people off, and I'm like, okay, fine, but
Yeah,
like it
yeah,
is
that's a
really
very intense. That's la anima sola, the lonely soul, and uh, who's tormented and going through her process of limbo and trying to transcend everything and rise up above everything. So yeah, it's a very popular image in Latin, in the Latin realm, the anima sola, the lonely soul.
so
It's like
lonely.
you have to face, literally face it, the darkness, and transform it in order to survive.
That is amazing. That gives me chills because that's really what this was about. Like I felt so alone.
Hmm.
incredibly alone. And oftentimes when you're that alone, you turn to violence either towards yourself or towards other people. And so that's where I think I link to that because the pivotal point in my book is that choice moment. Am I going to turn to the violence de la chola? Or am I going to be like la Annie?
Well, that's where breaking the chains come in, you know. Either you have the fortitude to do that, or you stay stuck and you don't move forward. So
Absolutely.
it's
The
all on you. It's like it is all on you. You're all on your own.
It did feel that
Spiritual
way that day.
spiritual journey that you have to face alone. No path.
Absolutely. But then I think too, back to like your commitment to spirit and to circle, that in those moments, it's like if you have already centered yourself a little bit, like I felt my grandmother's voice ese día. We gotta listen and we gotta center. And that's why that's another before y'all, we were talking about resistance and how does this what I'm calling in healing is different than other types of resistance. And I do feel like this is a healing, meditation, mindfulness, centering ourselves, etc. El alma, anima, all of these are also parts of resistance. Because I feel that, we right now people are we're in hard times. It's a little bit chaotic out there, just like in the 70s when y'all were, doing your things too. We're doing
Mhm.
our things. And unfortunately, some of those things are not necessarily on the streets or in schools, taking up space that way, but we are taking up space digitally and perhaps even insular, right? That we're doing these things as resistance. And I wanted to expand and stretch that. How do you see your art as continuing the legacy of Chicana and resistance?
Um, Chicana resistance is our voice. Somos Chicanas. We use our voice. I always say I'm a Chicana because I have a big mouth and I cannot stand to see injustice. I have to speak up. I
Yes.
have to say something. Like that's what the palabras for. Let's use our words to change this. And that's all we have as women right now because they're stripped so many freedoms and rights from us, and we've been subjugated for so long that what we have right now is our voice. And I mean, there's this glib saying that our existence is our resistance. It's very, but it's true. I mean, because I exist and I'm still here because um, my ancestors went through a genocide.
Mm,
We're still here. Just the fact that we still exist through the strength of our spirit and knowing who we are and that we're of the earth and we have a purpose. And I think as artists, using our ability to through flowery speech, whether it be through poetry or art, to convey those important evolutionary messages to the people who observe them, we're helping them to evolve and their existence to grow because we're all connected.
yeah.
And whether we're out there protesting or whatever we're doing, spiritually, we all know we're connected and we're there. And that's powerful, you know, because that's energy and energy is power. And at some point, we'll all gather in one way or another because this is how we've survived all along.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. Friends, for those of you who are joining us, I am here with Pola Lopez from New Mexico. And now I'm going to get to say it right. My name is Araceli Esparza,
Santa Fe, Nuevo Mexico,
Santa Fe, Nuevo México, para ser
del
correctos.
norte, the north of New Mexico, in the Montes, del Monte. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. My name is Araceli Esparza. I'm the author of Healing from Racial Discrimination, Ahora Qué, Now What. We are in an interview with Pola here. She is the cover artist. As you can see, the colibri that she drew. And if you buy her book, you'll see that. But you should also follow her on social media as well, or go to her website, Pola Lopez, and you can Google her artist, painter. She already has like I think a Wikipedia entry is on you as well, Pola.
I
You're like, oh,
know they're bad.
I'm serious because if I just go Pola Lopez, like it comes up now, and I'm like Pola Lopez artist, and I even wrote Texas, and it still came up. Okay,
Oh,
so this is interesting. Yeah, and I know you're not from Texas, but it still comes up.
I have
Pola
many
Lopez.
all over, the United States and Mexico, we're
You painted
connected.
everywhere.
Yes.
Right? Like in Mexico también, right? Like self-taught artists, really about the community and so forth. So I'm just so happy that that day when I was thinking about my cover artist, like who, what, where, I'm just gonna keep on. And your paintings came up, and I'm like, and then I went into your website, saw all this, got on a phone call with you, and we just talked about things that were about sacred symbolism, and uh, and so forth. What gave you like, thinking about sacred symbolism about the colibri? I was, researching about the colibri, and the colibri is known as messengers between worlds. Is that,
Right.
you've heard of that? Okay, cool.
Mhm.
So I was like, how does that idea connect to the journey of healing and reclaiming identity?
Uh, well, the colibri is it's kind of like they're warriors, right? And they're the souls of the warriors. So when you die, that moment that you die and your soul takes over,
Mhm.
that moment of transition to maintain awareness and to have the power to move on into another path is spiritual, is a spiritual warrior who can do that. Some people get lost, or they go to, they don't, there's not an awareness of their spirituality because we're all into the physical, right? So uh, the hummingbirds can do that, and because they can bridge between the earth and the heavens,
Mm.
they're portals between, because they can fly all crazy, and the fluttering of their wings opens the portal to the heavens, right? Because they're so fast. And
Yes.
when they stand still, they stand perfectly still. They hover, and that's the moment that they take to be in the moment and be in the earth and be present and be aware. So they bridge both. When you bridge both the physical and the spiritual, heaven and earth, you create that divine child, which is that sacred spark that now you can take that soul and use it for something else, either to come back as another human being or to be a divine ancestor or whatever, but it's all about awareness and power, being able to wield the power of that spiritual energy of the divine spark. And the Aztecs thought, the hummingbird is so small, but it's so powerful and it's
Yeah.
so beautiful, and nobody messes with it. So it contains everything that it needs to represent that transition of.
Right. That's even this, and that's what in the book I do talk about, like just the mindfulness and centering ourselves throughout. And I think that stillness is that moment where you're like in all of that. And so as messy as it is when you get fired from a job, because it is messy and like it just is. I think I'm asking people to just like in the book, take a moment for yourselves to recalibrate where your journey is now. What can you really learn from this? Because there have been many times I've
It's
been racially discriminated against in work. This was not the first time. Like I mentioned in the book, there were three other times, and even after I've been racially discriminated in a workplace, I was slighted and questioned about my indigeneity, even in a board meeting, right? Like during the process of me writing this book, and I interjected a little bit that we should even be worrisome, even as a volunteer, apparently, to different organizations and just to take precedence of like what do I do with this information now? So just like the colibri is always like fluttering, as you said, like between these worlds, and you were doing that, you were that bridge person. Perhaps you did really good, and it's through the point of view of me being a worker in social services, which I think attracts a lot of first gen Latinas wanting to help their community. It's an easy entryway to professional development, et cetera, personal development, and you're still giving back to the community and being paid for it. So it's like you're thinking this is the greatest job maybe I have, or this is a great opportunity for me. But then like myself, you feel attacked, victimized, tokenized, etc., and it like all shambles to pieces. So when I'm thinking about this story about the colibri and how he's a warrior, and there's a moment where in their flight, they're still flying, they're still fluttering, but they're in perfect stillness.
Mhm.
And that um that imagery reminds me a lot of like what happens when you are racially discriminated against the workplace. It's like all things stood still. You're looking for witnesses. I had witnesses that didn't want to come up out that, kind of turned away from me. And only until later on, when I get again in that stillness, do I see why they did that. And
Mhm.
then also recognizing the various different people that could help me too. So it doesn't need to be like hours of stillness, nor does it, just like a hummingbird only probably does it for like a millisecond. That's all I'm asking for people to do is to actually just dwell in it a little bit. And sometimes we look for the allies. There are other beings in this stillness moment that could possibly also be um, kind of a guide for you or a help or an ally. And I like talking about that in the book. And I think that those are kind of these deeper elements that we see even in this drawing, because you talk about the sacred scroll that you can see in the background. There's a like a half circle, and I do believe that's the scroll that you're talking about, Paula. And
Yeah.
and then the flowers that coming through. And you can't see the whole thing, folks, but you can see a good portion of it. Um, so yeah, are there any other symbols of themes or symbols that are central to this image that you think are also reflected in our shared cultural history?
Um,
You
I
talked a
think
little bit about those though already, but if you
I
want,
think that your book is perfect timing right now because look at what's happening in the country. People are massively getting fired. Whether it's a discrimination, whether it's racial or whatever,
yeah,
it's exactly what's happening, and this book is needed right now.
absolutely.
So I'm glad that you wrote this. Maybe you didn't know why it was a personal reason you're writing it, but look at all the people that are being affected by this right now. My daughter is in the same situation, and I had to tell her, take a moment to, like you were saying, to be quiet and be the observer and assess what's happening here. Don't think it's like a death penalty. It's just a moment of change. And you may not understand it right now, but if you're just observing it, you're not going to react to it in a bad way. You'll react to it in a way where you can gather yourself and your knowledge and make the right path forward from there. Because maybe it ran its course already. Things there's no, things are constantly changing, and we're in a world that's changing very rapidly. And so maybe it's a good thing or a bad thing when you get terminated from a job. I don't know. It depends on your own personal situation, but how you react is all you can control.
Absolutely. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Paula. For those of you who have been listening, go to polalopez.com and to go see more of her art on her website. And feel free to also go to my website, araceliesparza.com, and subscribe to my email newsletter so that you can get notified about the launch of this book, which will happen very shortly. But I wanted to, there'll be several other interviews here, folks, with the different artists that contributed to this book. I'm a poet myself, so I have some poetry in there as well. But thank you so much, Paula, for your time today to talk to us about literally the legends that the cover art belongs to, and I love it. Okay, so thank you so very much. Once again, just I'm just in awe of your presence, of your storytelling. That was really profound to me to hear once again just the story behind the hummingbird and the colibri, and in particular, this painting. So thank you so much, everyone. Take it easy, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.